All right. Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Um, all right. Now I can see there should be 13 people watching. Hello, everyone. Hi. Okay. So for some of you, you already know me. My name is Chago. You should probably be able to see my name right underneath where you see my image. I'm one of the teachers at Mayes Meravigli in Milan, so some of you might already know me, but I know that especially in the last few days, a lot of people have been joining us from other schools in Italy and also outside of Italy. So really, welcome everyone. I see some people. Hi, Emanuele. I know Emanuele, Paola, Maria, Nicole. Hi, everyone. So we're going to get started with our focus today. We will be talking about inventions, okay? So just to get started here. So some of you might have done the activity earlier this week on architecture, in which the teacher talked about the passives. So today we're going to be using this activity also to practice that a little bit more, okay? So we will be focusing on inventions today in general. So we'll be talking about some famous inventions. In doing so, we are going to be looking at how to form and use the passives. Hi, everyone. Hello. And that's it, okay? So let's get started over here. So here we have a few inventions. Let's go over some of this vocabulary. Does anyone know the name of any of these inventions? Could you maybe write it down in the comment for me? Let's see. So we can start with some easy ones. Here on the bottom, of course, the bottom right, we have, of course, what do we call this? All right, perfect. Paula and Maria, okay, you have a few over there. Exactly. So we have the telephone. We have two types of phones that we see here. So the one on the bottom, as Nicole said, that is a smartphone. Okay, like an iPhone. Does anyone know the name of the physical telephone that I think a lot of people don't have them anymore, but in the past you used to have them at home? What do we call that older phone? So that would be, I'll type this for you, a let me just show you on the screen. That would be a landline. Okay, so the older phones that were connected to the wall, so basically they had a line that went underground, is a landline. And then the modern ones we have nowadays are smartphones. Great. Then let's see, before someone had written the full list here, then yes, we have a camera over here, TV, the airplane. Okay, just careful with the spelling of airplane. Let me just write it down here. Airplane. Okay, just 1 second. Okay, so we have the airplane, and then, as we said, a landline, and we also have the telescope. So we also call that one a telescope or a spyglass. Exactly, spyglass works just as well. So these are some famous inventions. So I saw a lot of you saying that the most useful is the smartphone. So why do you think the smartphone is the most useful invention? What are some things you can do with a smartphone? So what do you use your smartphone for? Very nice, Gabriela, because we can keep in touch wherever you are. Very nice expression, to keep in touch with someone. Oh, Natalie. Okay, perfect. I said a different name there. Great, Emanuele. You can also use it. A smartphone basically can be used for many different functions, including many of the other inventions that we see on the screen. So it can be used as a television. It can be used as a camera. Let's see, what else do we have there? Emails, of course, messages, social media, fast communication. Exactly. Make sure communication singular, and to be connected with other people. Wonderful, guys. Which one would you say is the least useful nowadays? Exactly, to talk to people who are far away. Absolutely. To communicate with all. Excellent. So, Paula, you think the least useful would be the landline, yeah? So, why is the landline not so useful anymore? Okay, we're getting some answers here. Okay, so now we have smartphones. Okay, so it basically made the landline, we can say, obsolete. Obsolete. So it's no longer necessary because we have something that we can carry around with us. It doesn't have to be connected to the wall anymore. So we say that it is obsolete. Uh, some of you also mentioned the telescope as maybe not being so useful. And a cigarette. Okay, that's also true. All right, guys, fantastic. So let's move on. Okay. So here we have a few other inventions. Of course, if we look at this picture here with the light bulb, what invention are we talking about over here? So that would be, of course, electricity. We got electricity. And the other one that we see on the top, that could be a space shuttle. Something that can take you up to space. Okay, so Nicole says, I think the least useful is the telescope, unless you are a curious neighbor. Yes, if you are a curious neighbor, if you are a stalker, the telescope could be perhaps useful. although illegal, of course. Um, okay, all right, guys, fantastic. So here we have some vocabulary that can be useful when talking about inventions. So first, what I'm going to do is I will go through the list. Okay, I will give you the meaning. I will explain it. But what I want you to do in the meantime, I want you to think of some examples. Okay, so just choose one word that you like and write down in the comment, use that word in the context. Okay, so that way I can make sure that you're using it correctly. So the first one for the Italians in the group, this will be an interesting one because a patent in English, it is not the document you need to drive. A patent is something that you need to protect your intellectual property. So if I invent something, it is good to file a patent so that no one can copy that idea. So basically, a patent is the exclusive legal right to manufacture, use, or sell an invention. Okay, excellent, Katerina. Then we have the verb to flop, which I believe is also used in Italian. So to flop is basically the opposite of being successful. So if you invent something but you're not successful in selling it, you can say that your product flopped. So a patent, is it like copyright? Yes, it's fairly similar. It's actually, I'm trying to think of the difference between a copyright and a patent. I believe a copyright, it could be a little bit more limited in the context, as in you have the right to copy and that, whereas a patent is the exclusive right that you have as an inventor. But they're definitely similar. Okay, exactly. So a flop is to completely fail. The opposite of to flop, we have to take off. So this is used a lot also in the context of traveling. If you're flying, your plane takes off. So you can also use if your product is successful, if you were able to sell a lot of units, for example, you can say, my invention took off. It achieved success. Okay? We have another phrasal verb. So to come up with, usually we use this for an idea, to come up with an idea. And that's that moment you get a light bulb on your head, when you have an idea, you come up. Here it goes. Oh, and then we did do obsolete before. We talked about it. So obsolete, like in the case of the landline, right? The landline has become obsolete because now we have cell phones. And the last one, feasible, or you can also say doable. So you're capable of doing. Let me put doable here as well. Feasible plus doable. Okay. Exactly, guys. So what I would love for you to do now is that if each of you could just choose one word, maybe a word that you're not so comfortable with or you think you understand, but you want to make sure. And could you maybe write an example? Can you use it in a sentence for me? That way I can tell you if it's correct or if there's anything that we might need to fix. So just go ahead and write that in the comment and we'll have a look as a group. So yesterday my party flopped. Okay, that works. The law of gravity comes up with an apple. Now, that one, just be careful because when you come up with is an idea. Okay, so you could say that Newton came up with the law of gravity. Okay, so it's to have an idea. Facebook, exactly, just be careful with taked. We would say Facebook took off in 2010. Okay, so you're saying that in 2010, Facebook became very popular. That's fine. Great job. So we have an example for flop. We have one for come up with, okay, which we corrected. Take off, all right. My telephone is obsolete. I don't have the possibility to use internet. That's fine, exactly. You have an older phone. You don't have that ability. Could you please confirm with me if the design is feasible on this article? Sure. Can you confirm if the design is doable, if it works? That's fine. Okay? Very nice. Maybe an example with patent. I think that's the only one we're missing. Feasible to attend the MIS class from home. All right, Maria, very nice sentence. The only correction I would make is instead of saying I am feasible to attend, maybe it's better to say it is feasible to attend, as in it is possible, it is doable. Okay, so maybe not I am, but it is. We have a couple, the phone has a lot of patents, that works. Teleportation will be feasible by 2020, excellent example. So, okay, nicely done, guys. All right, so let's move on. Okay, I got one more there. So I've got the patent for or of my creation. Okay, excellent job, Emanuele. So guys, so as I said in the beginning, some of you might have already done the architecture focus, which was done, I believe, a few days ago through this streaming channel. In that focus, you practice the passives. Okay, so here we're going to practice it a little bit more. So first, let's talk about the passive. I know that the idea of active and passive also exists in Italian, in Spanish and French as well. So you should all be familiar with this. We do have to talk about the mechanism. So, all right, first of all, a passive is basically a way of saying something when you're not really focusing on the person who did the action, but you're focusing on the action itself. Okay, so this is when the action is the most important thing. Not the subject, the action. Okay, let me write it down so you have it on the screen. Just 1 second, guys. As soon as it... Just waiting to send you the comment. Okay, so the action is the most important and not the subject. Great job, Daniela, sending a letter, sending a written letter on paper, or sending a letter written on paper, that actually works, okay, is now obsolete, absolutely. Okay, so the action is the most important thing. So what does that mean in practice? So realistically speaking, so basically we would use the passive if I don't know the subject. Okay, for example, I can tell you that last night the bank near my house was robbed. See, I mean, the subject is important. Maybe the police is looking for the suspect, but I don't know who did it. Okay, so of course I could say someone robbed the bank, but someone doesn't give me any information, so I can simply go, the bank was robbed. Okay, that is one case. So if I don't know the subject, that's one of them, or if the subject is obvious or not important in general. Okay, for instance, I can say that iPhones are produced in China. See, I know that Apple is the company that produces iPhones, but we all know this. It's quite obvious. So instead of saying Apple produces iPhones, we would say iPhones are produced. Okay? Now, forming the passive is actually quite simple. So we just start with the object. So the thing that is received. So for example, the bank, as we said before, or the iPhones. So start with the object, start with the thing that receives the action, plus verb to be. Okay, and now here you have to be careful of the tense. Am I saying this in the present, in the past? Is it maybe a present perfect because something started in the past, but it continues now? So you can basically use any tense that you want. You just have to conjugate verb to be. So for example, yesterday, the bank was, and then the past participle of the verb. In this case, robbed. The bank was robbed. Okay? Gonna write this down and put it on the screen for everyone. So object, verb to be, and past participle. Okay. And you should be able to see it shortly. All right. So the biggest thing here is that you just have to be careful with the tense that you're using. All right. Usually with my students, for some reason, I do love Pandoro, so I always use Pandoro as my example, as some of you might remember. Here, we can use all the tenses. I can say that, generally speaking, Pandoro is produced in Verona. 30 years ago, Pandoro was produced in Verona. Since its invention, Pandoro has been produced in Verona. In 30 years, Pandoro will be produced in Verona. I can say in this moment, Pandoro is being produced in Verona. So basically, as you see, I can use any tense and I don't have to change anything. I don't change the object. I don't change the past participle. The only thing is verb to be. So we have a couple examples here. The jeans were invented in 1871. Wonderful. Good job with the plural as well. The jeans were invented, Katerina. And Christina has Coca-Cola was invented in the US. Great. Great. Sure, for US, you always say the US, the UK. Nicely done, guys. Perfect. Chips are fried. Wonderful. So let's maybe get a little bit more practice with this then. All right, I will show you. So here, I'll put some inventions that we can use. 1 second. Okay, let's just wait for it to load. Okay, so here we go. We have some information about the potato chip. Maybe let's make it a little bit bigger. Can all see it? Where is the zoom? Here it is. Great. So look especially at the parts that are underlined, because all the parts that are underlined, we should be able to use a passive. Okay, so let's go part by part. Let's see. Cars will be flown one day. That's great. Drink in the present or drink? Yeah, so drink here. It's drink, drank, drunk with a U. So if you're using the past participle, you want to use drunk with a U. Just write this down. Okay, here you go, Maria. So let's have a look at that first one, guys. So George Crumb accidentally invented the potato chip in 1860. So let's do that first one together. So first, just identify the object. The potato chip. We're talking in singular. Okay. Now we need to put verb to be. As you can see, the tense here is past simple, invented. So I just take verb to be and conjugate it in the past simple. So the potato chip was, very nice, Beatrice, the potato chip was invented by George Crumb in 1860. Wonderful. Put that up there. Perfect. Okay, so just be careful with the spelling of potato, which you can see up there, but the example is perfect otherwise. Okay, so the potato chip was invented by Crumb. All right, let's look at the second one. Oh, this one doesn't have anything underlined. Okay, so I'm going to underline hired. Okay, so this is the part where we can use the passive. So whoever wants to do that one, just write that in the comment for me. So how do I change the second comment to the passive? Oh, Esteban, when the chips are being eaten by me right now. Good for you. The potato chip was invented, yeah. Exactly, Caterina, potato. That's the right spelling. All right, Paula. So you said Crumb was hired as a chef in 1853. Exactly. So in 1853, Crumb was hired as a chef at an elegant resort in Saratoga Springs. Wonderful. All right. Put that up there. Crumb was hired in New York. Wonderful. Number 3. So that one's a little bit longer. We have 1, 2, 3 examples of the passives we can use. So who can give that to me? Let's see, Andrea Crumb was hired as a chef in an elegant resort. Yep, fantastic. That works great. Okay. Hi, guys. Sorry, I got kicked out of the app here for a second, but I'm just putting it back. Should all be able to see it soon. Okay, here we go. So, all right, so we have some examples here. So, yeah, his fries had been cut too thick. That's correct. So, one day a customer complained that his fries had been cut would be consistent with the past perfect. Okay, Paula? If you haven't studied the past perfect yet, don't worry. You will do this in level 10. It's basically a past before another past. So he said, first, the past is a customer complained. He complained about what? That before that, his fries had been cut too thick. So that's why we use that different form there. Okay, so a customer complained that his fries had been cut too thick. All right, and then the second part here. So annoyed, Crumb decided to serve him a new style of potatoes, which let me see, which exactly were sliced, peeled, and fried extra thin. Wonderful. Uh, exactly. Caterina and Alessandro, you guys both got it. Okay? Then, to Crumb's surprise, that just the last part of that third point, to Crumb's surprise. Yeah, exactly. Daniela, Beatrice, very good. Young Jin, good job. Wonderful. Exactly. And to Crumb's surprise, the customer was pleased. Was pleased by the thin and crispy potatoes that he had made. Wonderful, guys. Perfect. So let's move on here. Although, what about that one? Customer was pleased. Yep, exactly. Yes, so although Crumb is credited for the invention of the potato chips, in the second part, exactly, although Crumb is credited, yeah. The idea was never patented. Yep, excellent. So although Crumb was credited for the invention of the chips, the idea was never patented. Okay. So the sentence that you have, Beatrice, when you have he never had been patented. Now remember that we have to start with the object, right? And the object in this case are the chips. So, or sorry, in this case, the idea. So the idea was never patented. Okay? Is that all clear? All right, wonderful. And then we have just the last two now. So what happened in 1920? Oh, no worries at all, Beatrice. That's exactly what we're here for. If anything is not clear, just let me know. So we have in 1920, the mechanical potato peeler was invented in order to mass produce potatoes. Yes, exactly. Just a little typo there, peeler, but yeah. Good. Yeah, I would just add a peeler there, Gabriele. Okay, so not the mechanical potato, although that would be cool, but the mechanical potato peeler. Okay. Like a peeler is a machine to peel the potato, so to remove the skin around it. So a peeler comes from the verb to peel. Exactly, Andrea. Very nice. So the mechanical potato peeler was invented. Okay. All right. Last one. We have. So today, many U.S. retail stores sell potato chips, and most Americans eat potato chips. So we got two more passives we can do there. So today, potato chips are sold by many U.S. retail stores. Fantastic, Luana. So they are sold. Good job with the plural as well. They are sold by many U.S. retail stores. And exactly. So make sure it's plural. So potato chips are, and then sold is the correct participle. Yes, so they are exactly, Paula. So we have potato chips are sold in many U.S. retail stores and are eaten by Americans. Okay? Perfect, Katerina. Sold. Okay? So nicely done. Now, of course, so this is kind of like the mechanics of the passive. When you're using it speaking, it's a little bit harder, right? Because you kind of have to make these decisions very quickly in your head. So, as a final example, before we go to our next activity, let's look at another invention. Let's do the. It can be a good one. All right, let's look at Coca-Cola. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go through the entire text and I will give it to you in the passive. Okay, so you don't need to write it down because it will take a little bit of a long time. Just look at it in your head. Just think, how would I make this a passive? And then compare it to my answer. And then if you have any questions, when we finish, we can talk about that. Okay? So we'll go one by one, and I'll give you the active and then the passive. So Dr. John Smith Pemberton invented Coca-Cola on May 8th, 1866 in Atlanta, Georgia. So in this case, Coca-Cola was invented on May 8th by Pemberton. In 1886, the US government enacted a prohibition law banning all alcoholic products from the market. So in this case, in 1886, a prohibition law was enacted banning all alcoholic products from the market. This law persuaded Dr. Pemberton to redevelop his French wine cola, a popular headache remedy that contained alcohol. At the time, almost all of the Atlanta's pharmacists were selling Dr. Pemberton's French wine cola. So I would say, at the time, Dr. Pemberton's French wine cola was being sold by most Atlanta pharmacists. Shortly thereafter, Dr. Pemberton created a new non-alcoholic syrup, which he combined with carbonated water to create a new beverage. So shortly thereafter, a new non-alcoholic syrup was created, which was combined with carbonated water to create a new beverage. We have his customers sampled and pronounced excellent the new carbonated drink, and Dr. Pemberton placed it on sale for 5 cents a glass. So the new carbonated drink was sampled and pronounced excellent, and it was placed on sale for 5 cents a glass. In 1893, the owners of Coca-Cola registered the drink at the US Patent Office. So in 1893, the drink was registered at the US Patent Office. In 1894, an artist painted the first outdoor wall advertisement for Coca-Cola. So in 1894, the first outdoor wall advertisement for Coca-Cola was painted. And finally, in 1955, they began packaging Coca-Cola in cans. So I would say in 1955, Coca-Cola began being packaged in cans. Okay. So if you have any questions, anything that doesn't make sense, please ask, guys. I'm happy to answer anything. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here in the meantime, just in case you guys have any questions. And just as we have about 15 minutes or so to the end of the lesson, we are going to talk about a different topic, which I'm going to load up here. Let's see. Oh, sure, Daniela. Of course I can. Okay, I can repeat a few of them. Yes. Just give me 1 second then, because I'm going to, let me just get the PDF again. Just 1 second. Where are we? Here we go. Make that big. Okay, so Paula, you asked me to repeat the third one. So right over here. So, so we would use the passive basically just for the second half, right? So I would say, so at the time, Dr. Pemberton's French wine Coca was being sold by almost all of the Atlanta pharmacists. So we would basically use the past continuous in this case. So it was being sold. I'm going to write it down as well. It was being sold. Here you go. I'm going to put that on the screen. And then the last one, Daniela, in 1955, they began packaging Coca-Cola in cans. So in that case, I would say in 1955, Coca-Cola began being packaged in cans. Okay, so this one is a bit different, right, from the others because we were using a verb before. But this is because with begin, we cannot put that in the passive. So what we do is, so it began, okay, normally, Began what? And the action is to be packaged. That can be put in the passive. So Coca-Cola began being packaged. Okay, that one is a little bit more difficult. Most of the cases are simpler. You can just do directly object, verb to be, and the participle. But with some verbs, you will see a construction like that. Okay? Any other questions here about the Coca-Cola? All right, guys. So if everything is clear, I'm going to go ahead. Let's open the next activity. Stop the screen, share. Okay, so for the next 15 minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about online dating. So what does it mean, guys? What is dating? The idea of dating. Very close, Daniela. It's not quite to meet someone, but it basically means two different things. So if you're using it as a verb, if you say to date someone, it basically means to be in a relationship with them. Okay? So I am dating that person. That person and I are in a relationship. Okay? So it's more of that whole idea of boyfriend and girlfriend, etc. Okay? But we also do have an expression. In fact, Lucrezia and Caterina, or Alessandro as well, you talk about the appointment, no? As you say in Italian. In that case, I would say so to go on a date. If you go on a date, that's the idea of the appointment, although in English we would not use appointment necessarily when talking about kind of like a more romantic date. Okay? So just be careful with that difference there. So we have to date or to go on a date. Okay? Yeah, to go out. Sure. Sure. If you go to have drinks, you go to a restaurant, you're going on a date. Okay? All right. So here, let's just continue here for a second. So I'm just going to introduce a few expressions that might be useful while talking about this, okay, because we don't have a whole lot of time. So it's mostly just an introduction. All right? Now, here are some expressions we can use when talking about dating. First is a blind date. Does anyone know the meaning of a blind date? So blind means it would be a person that cannot see. They cannot use their sight. So if you have a blind date, exactly, Katerina, or in Salvi, it's when you don't know the person. Yeah, a date in the dark. There's something similar in Italian, right? Yeah. You might go to the bar and your friend brings along a person that you think you might like. Okay, so you're going on a blind date. Maybe it's not as common nowadays as it was in the past. But exactly, when you don't know the person you're going to meet. So that's a blind date. Then, of course, this is pretty easy. A first date. It's the first time you go out with someone. Yep, wonderful job, guys. Checking your answers, they all seem correct. Okay, so first date is the first time. Number 3 is interesting, to go Dutch. So if you go Dutch on a date, what are you doing? Yes, Katerina, perfect. So when you go Dutch on a date, it basically means that each person pays for their own part separately. So this is quite similar to when you go Roman in Italy, right? Say to go Roman is you divide the bill. Exactly. So going Dutch, it can mean both dividing it equally, so taking the total amount and dividing it by the number of people present, or it can also be, I ate this pizza and I had this drink, so I'm going to pay my part. Wonderful. That means to go Dutch. We also have another verb, to stand someone up. It's a phrasal up verb. So stand someone up. So this is something, well, hopefully you would not do this, but it's something that you would do after you make plans. Yes, Gabriele, when you pay 50-50, that's go Dutch, exactly. And to stand someone up. So if I tell my date, okay, let's meet, at the piazza at 7:30 tomorrow. But if my date stands me up, exactly, my date doesn't come. Okay, so I'm there alone waiting for my date, and they never come. They never tell me they're not coming. Wonderful. That's to stand someone up. And okay, and then of course we can also talk about a dream date. So, a type of date can be maybe going to a restaurant. What are some ideas of dream dates that sound good to you guys in particular? Has anyone been on an amazing dream date before? Row mood. I really like your comment, Maria. I just saw that. Okay, great. So drinking something by the sea at night, yes, it's very easy to do in Italy. No, you have the sea everywhere, with the right person, of course, which can be risky if it's a blind date. Walking on the moonlight, wonderful. I see, Maria. So everywhere can be perfect as long as you have the right person. Okay, great. Wonderful. Eating a good pizza always. Yes, food is love. Absolutely. All right. Well, fantastic, guys. So let's do this. We only got about 5 minutes until the end of our chat today. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a few pieces of vocabulary, okay? You don't need to write the answer in the comment because it takes sometimes a few seconds for me to receive it. So you can just answer it kind of on your own. You don't have to write this down. We'll confirm if your answer is right, okay? So first of all, let me just actually get rid of the screen here then. All right. Perfect. So, what do we call when you go on a date and each person pays their own part? So we call this going Dutch. If you agree with someone to meet someplace to go on a date, but then the person doesn't come, They stand the other person up. If I'm talking about inventions, if I invented something and I want to protect my intellectual property, I need a patent. If an invention has become quite old, nobody uses it anymore, there are newer, better things we can use instead, we can say that that old invention has become, and the answer here is obsolete. It has become obsolete. If a product is successful, I managed to sell a lot of units, for example, I can say that my product took off. Okay, took off. And the opposite of took off, if I am not successful, if my plan doesn't work out, I can say that it flopped. So take off and flop. Okay, guys. So we're going to stop here for today. Thank you guys all for joining. My recommendation now, you have the weekend. Try to practice a little bit of the passives. So this is really easy. You can just go on Wikipedia, for example. You can look at any invention, a city. Okay, there are so many things you can talk about. Just basically get the main information like we saw today, and then try to retell that story using the passive. At first, it might be easier if you write it down to make sure everything is correct. But once you get more comfortable with that, then my recommendation is speaking. Just taking a piece of paper with basic information and try telling the story using the passive. Okay, if you do this even, for 5 or 10 minutes each day, you will really consolidate that skill. All right. So really nice meeting some of you and also talking to some of you who are already new. Have a lovely weekend, okay? And if you also want to join, there will be another session now at 8 o'clock with Danielle from Milan as well, okay? Thank you, everyone. Have a great one. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.